This regular meeting, the Detroit Lake City Council is called to order, and at this time, I'd like to ask everyone to please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The minutes of the regular City Council meeting held July 13th and a special City Council meeting held July 27th are before the council. Is there anyone in the council or anyone in the audience that wishes to make any changes or deletions to the minutes? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for their approval.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion is made and seconded to approve the minutes of the regular City Council meeting held July 13th, 2021, and the special council meeting held July 27th, 2021. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. The consent agendas before the council and all items with an asterisk are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered separately in its normal sequence on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience or anyone in the council that wishes to either add or remove any items from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. At this time, we'll adjourn the regular meeting and call to order a public hearing to receive public comments on the proposed abatement of diseased trees in the city for the year 2021. Sean, do you want to introduce this to the council and to the public?
Mayor and Council, what this hearing is for the resolution ordering the abatement of diseased trees. What we have is a city employee that has a forestry license. We inspect the trees throughout the city each year and mark the trees that need to be removed because of disease or dead. And that's what's before you.
And then how is it paid for?
If the trees are on public or city property, we remove them. Otherwise, if they're on private property, the landowner is responsible for removing them. And we do have a city contract that we get every year, and our tree service is Cars Tree Service, and Cars Tree Service will remove any trees on private or public property.
Okay. I know there are 3 people here this evening that are here for this hearing, so does anyone in the audience have a question or a comment that you wish to make about the trees? Yes, ma'am. And if you would come up to the podium, and if we could get your name and address for our minutes, please. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi. Yep.
Diana Pearson, 1524 Gary Avenue in Detroit Lakes. I received a certified letter saying that my property is abutting the property with the tree on, so that I need to remove it. And I'm wondering why it is that I need to remove it if it's not on my property.
So I would defer to the city staff to try to answer that question, and if we can answer it, then maybe we could make an appointment to go over to the property. Or maybe you know, Sean.
We generally do not send out a letter if a tree is abutting property, only if it is on your property. And it is, I can stop and take a look and confirm to see if it is on your property.
You want to look?
It says right here that it's abutting my property.
It does say abutting, but I guess I have not seen that before, and I would have to actually stop out and take a look at your property. But we generally only send them to the owners of where the trees are at.
So Sean, why don't you get her phone number and give her a call tomorrow, and then you could maybe meet with her tomorrow or the next day or something? Is that okay?
218-396-0799. And I'll be out of town starting Thursday.
So I will make a point to make those there tomorrow.
Thank you. Okay. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Yep, thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience? I know, yes, yes, sir, come on forward, please. Thank you. Again, if I could get your name and address. please.
Dennis Matea, 1058 Elm Circle,
Okay,
Detroit Lakes.
thank you.
Well, I got the letter too, and I walked around my property 2 or 3 times. It says it's gonna be marked with an X. I don't see any tree in my property marked with an X. So I need to have someone come out and look,
Sounds
To
like we
see-
should do the same thing at your property.
yeah.
So
'Cause there's
would
no X's on any of my trees,
you- Okay,
so
well, that's probably good, though.
that's good. At least that's why I need to have someone look, so it's gonna save me $400 and some dollars.
Sure. Why don't you give Sean your number also, and we'll take a look at that. Thank you. And Jack, you have a question as well?
Yep, 620.
Hi, I'm Jack Labar. I live on 214 Sherman. The reason I'm here is same thing, trees. So I know there's an X on some trees there, so I know where they're at. It's just I talked to Steve Hansen because I found where the line is and everything with the pins, and it looks like it's on half of mine and half the neighboring property. Not a big deal. The one thing that I would like the city to do is come over because there's branches overhanging a power line there. So it'd be nice if, the city could cut it below the power line, and then I'll take care of the rest.
Okay.
So I called Andy on like July 23rd, left a voicemail, have not received a call back yet. So,
Again, why don't we get your phone number to Sean,
yep.
and we'll take a look at yours.
Yep. Sounds good, Matt. Kind of broke your mic there. Maybe. 218.
This is the most diseased tree discussion we've had in 12 years. Is there anyone else in the audience that has a concern with the diseased tree situation? If not, that probably, yes, sir.
How did they determine the price per tree? Mine says $411. How did they determine that price?
Well, if there's no X, I'm really at a loss. I got nothing, maybe.
I'm going to let Sean answer it, but
Sean.
I think it's based upon what our contract is with Cars Tree Service, and it's based upon that size of the tree.
Yeah,
It's,
because it actually says the 29-inch tree, so they probably use it
yeah,
that size.
I'm fairly sure that's what it is, but,
Okay, thank you.
I can answer that, Kelsey.
okay.
Trees are measured at about a 4-foot chest height, and then you get a circumference from there and get the diameter. Once you get the diameter of the tree, that is a price that we get from cars per inch.
All right, any other questions?
I've got a question. He mentioned car tree service, but can he go to any tree service that he wants to? Can he put that out for bid with some other tree cutters in the
Yeah,
area?
if it's on his
If it was on
property.
his property, okay.
According to the letter, we get 10 days from today. I don't think that's enough time. I don't think you're going to be able to find a contractor to cut down a tree in 10 days
I
with the
think
way
you're-
that things are going.
I think you're right.
I think 10 days is not enough time.
Well, we'll try to figure out if you even have a tree that's diseased
Yeah,
first.
let's go with that first.
All right, thank you. Okay, that public hearing's closed, and I would entertain a motion from the council. And should we remove these 3 for now, or what? How should we handle this, Kelsey?
I think you want to keep them on the list for assessment purposes, so,
But we won't take any action
Because-
until we hear back from Sean, right?
right, and ultimately, there'll be another assessment hearing if they actually have to be assessed, so if it's taken care of, either they don't have a tree or the tree gets removed,
Okay.
they'll be removed from the list when we do the next step, which is the assessment hearing.
Okay, so the action recommended by the staff is to go ahead and adopt or order the abatement of the diseased trees.
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded to order the abatement of the diseased trees for 2021. Discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I don't think there's anyone else in the audience that has anything on the agenda, so we'll go right into the Community Development Committee and Chairman Josephson, and you might want to introduce your guests tonight, Dan.
All right, I guess the guests that showed up unannounced were my older sister, Sarah, nephew Nathaniel, nephew Henrik, and my mother Sharon.
Welcome.
So
Good to
now
see
you'll be
you.
on television too.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dan.
All right, so item A was discussion on the extraterritorial subdivision ordinance. That just keeps on chugging along. It looks like the county is making some moves, and we just had a discussion about that. And I don't know if Larry or Kelsey or Charlie want to say anything to that, or just let it ride till next month.
Yeah, but we were just updating the committee a little bit on what the county's latest moves were.
So.
No action?
No action tonight.
Okay.
Item B is consideration to an extension to August 10th, 2022, a one-year variance, or for a variance to allow a 10-foot rear yard setback for construction of a garage/home addition at 1235 Shorewood Drive, James and Paula Schultz, based upon availability of contractors, material prices, and everything else. Kind of push that back for 1 year. CDC reviewed this, and I so move the extension.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to grant an extension for 1 year till August 10th, 2022 for a variance at 1235 Shorewood Drive. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
That's all I have.
All right, Dan. We'll go to the Public Works Committee.
Item A was a Public Works Facility update, just updating the committee on the process that's happening currently. The county has determined that they wish to start, but they made a few additions to their site plan that created a meeting with their architect and our city staff. And that's in the resolution process right now.
Okay.
Item B, discussion regarding the city beach ordinance as it pertains to parking boats overnight on the beach. It would seem that we're having a few boats that feel like they can park overnight at the beach. And so it was suggested that perhaps we take a look at the city beach ordinance, which we will do. It will be put on the agenda for sometime this fall, so that if we decide to make changes to that beach ordinance, we can have them in order and ready to go next spring. Item C, consideration to accepting the bids for the Long Lake Park Shelter re-roofing and post renovations. Sean, want to just quickly review that?
Madam Chair, Long Lake Park, we received 2 bids. It took me about 2 months to even receive 2 bids. We will be re-roofing, putting new steel on top and on the gable ends of Long Lake Park Shelter, and then redoing the posts that are, there's 14 posts, so we will pressure wash them and seal them. So it'll look like a new shelter.
All right, and the low bid was, will be awarded to Nodsley Construction LLC. The Public Works reviewed this and so moves.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the low bid from Nodsley Construction for improvements to the Long Lake Park Shelter. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item D, an information meeting for the Westlake Drive from County State Aid Highway 6 to the Pelican River will be held Tuesday. This is a change. Tuesday, August 24th at 5:30 p.m. in the council chambers. As you may recall, there'd been a lot of back and forth about which side the bike trail or the multi-purpose trail should go on. Either it should go on the lakeside or on the opposite side. The county and the city staff have come to an agreement on that, and so there will be an informational meeting on that project. Tuesday, August 24th. Item E, a pre-construction information meeting for the Willow Homes and Frazee project will be held Wednesday, August 11th at 5:30 p.m. in the council chambers. As you all are well aware, the Westlake portion of this project is still on hold, and so John is hoping to get started on at least part of that Willow Homes and Frazee project. So this will be an informational meeting. Item F, City Engineers Monthly Project Status Report. John, you are on.
Okay, thank you, Council. Just touching on a few of the active projects that we have going on right now. Westlake Drive, Legion of Six. We continue to work with the county on trying to resolve the disputes with landowners and things like that in that area so that we can hopefully move that project ahead in the spring of 2022. We've got plans and everything in order for that and sort of ready to go, just need to resolve those matters. We continue to work on that. Westlake Drive, County Road 6 to the Pelican River, we talked about that. We are right now in our capital plan that is planned for next year. So potentially, if all of these things sort of fall into place, we would actually be redoing Westlake Drive from the river all the way to Legion under two separate projects, but conceivably all next summer. So could be a lot of activity down in that area next year. Like Chairman Suki said, right now we're trying to figure out some of the things with the trail, then we'll start moving the project ahead into design this winter and bidding later next spring. So Berquist subdivision, or the Ridgeview subdivision, that project has been awarded to Felt Plumbing. They expect to start construction on that probably next week. About a dozen subdivision lots out there on the southeast side of Long Lake. Washington Avenue, or South of Washington Avenue project, I'll probably take this off the list next month. We're basically wrapped up there with all the contract work. There's just a couple of minor items remaining with some of the streetscaping elements and lights going into the sailboat monument, but other than that, that project is pretty well buttoned up. Long Pine Estates is substantially complete, just working through some turf maintenance issues on that. Bristland subdivision, nothing to report there. Willow Homes, Frazee Street, as mentioned, we're going to have a public meeting tomorrow night to talk through potential impacts to the properties, what the project schedule looks like, things to sort of just what to expect as a property owner once we start that work. Again, this year we're focusing on Willow Street from Sherrill to Rossman Avenue. The balance of Willow would be next spring, along with segments of Holmes and Frazee Street downtown. That contract's been awarded to Celine Brothers. We're still processing contracts, but I expect that work could start as early as earlier mid next week on Willow Street. So start to see some activity down there. Longbridge Heights, that report has been adopted by the City Council. We'll just be awaiting any further action pending decisions from the developer on that. Lake Forest 7th edition, all the underground utilities are complete. We still have street construction to complete within the subdivision itself. The curb is in, but need to finish up grading and paving and things like that. So hopefully by the end of the month, that one is wrapped up. Highland Drive, still have that on the list here, continuing to work with county and township on what that project's going to look like in terms of who's going to be doing what, who's taking a lead role, how those costs are going to be split out, things like that. I expect maybe in another month we'll have a pretty clear picture of what that'll look like. But again, it is a project that we have in our capital improvement plan for next year. And then finally, Willow Springs, we'll probably need to pick that back up in the next month or two. Working towards a preliminary report, what street improvement options we could do on that. We've more or less decided we're not doing the sewer and water, so at this point the project scope is back to street and drainage improvements, and we'll need to move that ahead sometime in the next month or two if we want to do something out there next year. So, questions?
I've got a question, John. You're doing a lot of bids for a lot of different cities and stuff, but what are you seeing happen with bid work right now with getting off the COVID and so forth and short supplies and stuff? Are you seeing these bids coming in higher than normal than what you thought they would be, or overall? Or?
Honestly, it's been a little bit all over the board. Some high, some low. I'd have to say that we've seen stuff a little lower than probably what we expected, given the fact that there are supply issues. PVC, there are still some issues with larger diameter PVC pipe because there's still a resin shortage. That was created by the polar vortex last winter. There still is some steel shortages, so things like valves and hydrants and ductile iron pipe and things like that are in a little bit short order. So there is definitely some supply issues that are playing into the cost, but so far what we've seen, at least here, we've been pretty fortunate in getting bids that I thought were actually below what I thought they would come in at, so.
Thank you.
Any further questions for John? All right, do we need to approve that? No, we don't, do we? It's just informational. Anything else, Madeline?
Nothing else, Your Honor.
All right, we'll go to the Finance Committee. Chairman Zeman.
Okay, item 7A is the consideration to a resolution to accept the American Rescue Plan Act funds. I'm going to call on Heidi to review this, everybody, and tell us what we're going to actually receive and what do we get on our first half.
Thank you, Chairman. So the city did receive the first half allocation of the American Rescue Plan Act, or as it's so lovingly called, ARPA funds, in late July. We did receive that first half payment, so over $400,000 came into the city's bank account. What the resolution is this evening is to accept the entire allocation of the funds, half of which we received now, half of which we'll receive in 12 months. So that is just kind of accepting those funds. There will be forthcoming guidance to clarify some things as to what, the funds may be used for and whatnot. That hasn't quite gotten ironed out yet at the federal level, but I expect that to be coming fairly soon. And then we'll be having some future discussions at the Finance Committee and Council levels about what to do with those funds.
Okay, and then we've got a little bit more time, a lot longer time than we had last year. We had to spend a lot quicker, but can you tell them about how long we have to spend these and so forth?
Yeah, so these funds, unlike the coronavirus funds that we received last year, have a little bit longer, significantly longer time frame for us to spend them. We need to allocate the funds and encumber the funds by December 31st of 2024. And we actually have until December 31st of 2026 to actually get the money out the door, fund the projects that we're funding, and completely utilize those funds.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, and like Heidi said, that we did receive a check for $491,414.25, and the committee recommends that we go ahead and do the resolution to accept these funds for the American Rescue Plan Act. I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt a resolution accepting the ARPA funds. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Next, item B is consideration of accepting the Detroit Lakes Country Club annual financial statement and the independent accountant's report that is agreed upon for procedures for the year ending December 31st, 2020. And Heidi, once again, if you want to review that with us.
Sure. So if you recall, a couple of months ago, perhaps back in May or April, the folks from the Detroit Country Club did attend the Finance Committee and Council meetings and discussed their operations and their budget for 2021 and also their rate structure. And at that time, they gave us a summary of their happenings from the past year. We didn't have their actual financial statements at that point, so what we're doing this evening is just accepting their audited financial statements of that activity from 2020.
Okay, then with that, I would go ahead and make a motion. We go ahead and accept the independent accountant's report for the agreed upon procedure for the year ending December 31st, 2020.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept the Detroit Country Club annual financial statements and the independent accountant's report for the year ending December 31st, 2020. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Okay, next item, item C, consideration to a sponsorship agreement for the Kent Freeman Marina with the Essentia Health. I'm going to call on Kelsey Clem to give us a report on that.
Mayor and council, the sponsorship agreement that's in the packet basically contemplates expanding some of the advertising that Essentia already does at the arena. They currently already have the Arena 2 scoreboard. This will expand their advertising to the Arena 1, both the east and south scoreboard, and then a new marquee sign that would be put up on Rossman Avenue. I believe that there's some pictures of all of those also in the packet. So the value of that would be a 5-year agreement at $25,000 per year.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and give consideration to this sponsorship agreement for Kent Freeman Marina with Essentia Health, and like Kelsey says, for the amount of $25,000 for 5 years. I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept and enter into a sponsorship agreement with Essentia for advertising at the Kent Freeman Arena. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anything
Yeah,
else?
Your Honor.
Okay, we'll go to the Public Safety Committee. Chairman Wenner.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
So the first item on the agenda is the installation of Knox boxes, and I asked Chief Swanson to explain what the requirement is for that and when it goes into effect. So if you could come up to the podium, Chief, and fill us in on that, that'd be great.
Hello, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So the Knox Box Ordinance was something that the city passed, I think it was about last fall, and we gave residents or businesses and property owners that have like an apartment building that has 4 units in the apartment with a common entrance and more would have to qualify for this. And what this is if the doors are locked so that we can gain access to it, stuff like that. On the business side, the commercial business sides, it's only on commercial businesses that have the alarm systems. And so kind of like, a little example is, my family business, our truck shop, we don't have a fire alarm system in it, doesn't require a locks box. Our brand new building, which is the rental in Kubota the Lakeside, has an alarm system in it, requires a lock box. And the idea is the fact that, as a business owner, we are putting that alarm system in there as to get early response and potentially stop a garbage can fire, something of that nature, to be extinguished before we lose our entire building. Well, without gaining access to that building, either with a Knox box, either we have to gain access to the building, in which it might be a false alarm, and now we do damage to the building. So this is a way to prevent damage to the building, still gain access to it. It is a secured way of doing it. This is nothing new. You go to Phoenix, Arizona, and they have Knox boxes and Knox Box Ordinance and stuff like that. So it's just a way to, gain accesses to these properties and make sure that we can check out the situation before it becomes an actual major issue.
So, Chief, do we have a list of these properties, and then how do we follow up with
We
compliance?
don't, because obviously with the alarm system side of it is there's nobody's keeping track of who has alarms.
Okay.
On our side, and we discussed this last night, is obviously it's supposed to be done by November, and we'd like it done by November, but we can also track fire calls at properties. So if we're getting fire calls and there's no Knox box there, then staff would, then either reach out to them or whatever the ordinance says to where they would have to, eventually, pay us some type of a fee for not following the ordinance. So,
You got anything to add to that, Kelsey?
Yeah, Mayor and council, so we'll probably just do a little bit of just a PR campaign, put it on Facebook and see if the newspaper wants to run a story on it, just to try to get the word out there. We're trying to figure out Chief Swanson's correct. We don't have any database that has who has alarm systems. We do have a rental registration ordinance, so we're going to see if we can query that to see who has 4 or more units. Again, we don't necessarily track it that way. But at a minimum, we'll probably try to do something in the newspaper, do Facebook. Yes, the penalty is, per our administrative code, is a $200 violation if you don't adhere to the ordinance. Again, our goal is compliance, not necessarily fines. So we'll try to do some education and get the word out there that it's time to have them installed.
We do have all 3 media here tonight, so that should help get the word out.
That should help.
Yeah. So just a clarification, Chief, you got a 6-plex that has 6 separate entrances. Everybody's got their own entrance. You mentioned something about it has to have a common entrance into the building.
Yep, I think that's the way the verbiage is worded. So if you have a basically apartment building where you walk into a common entrance and then you walk down and then go out, kind of like a hotel type design,
Yep. Then
normally that area is locked, so it's secured from there out. So that's where the Knox box would be, and then a few of these types of buildings have already reached out to us. They have done the Knox box, and then they also have met with me where they have keys for the individual rooms, and we lock them all up and it's all secured. So,
Okay.
this also is a great thing, especially on the apartment buildings where law enforcement also has this key. So if there's a medical reason or something like that and you need an ambulance, right now they can't get to you. Well, now they're either calling us or Chief Todd's guys are busting doors in or something like that. We're here, now they can open the door and not do damage to the property and quicker get to your aid and stuff like that. So it's a
Okay.
kind of a win-win.
All right, do you have a question?
Well, I just have a comment that we've been talking about these Knox boxes and trying to get people to put those in, but it's a win-win deal for everybody. It's a win-win deal for the fire department and police department because they can get in real fast with a key and help those persons. But it's really a win for a business owner and apartment owner. If they can't get in with a key, they gotta break your whole door down. And
Correct.
you could have a steel door or whatever, and that's very expensive. It's gonna be a lot more than what this Knox box is. So it's for your own good, and it just helps everybody out, including the people that live in those apartments and also that business owner. So there's really no reason why somebody shouldn't put this in, because if they had one call at their business and they couldn't get in, you're gonna have that door knocked in so you can get people in to help those people. So that's what it amounts to.
Yes, and Knox box actually even has a home key, a residential box. It's a smaller box, stuff like that. So if there are people in the area that do have medical type, issues and, leave their doors locked and stuff like that, they too can go to knoxbox.com and order this box, which is only keyed for the city of Detroit Lakes. So, my key that I have will not fit in any other town's box, vice versa. So this way, if they do, need the ambulance or something like that, they're not breaking in their house doors and that. And really for that type of, the home box is only a couple $100. Plus you gotta have it installed, but it's a lot cheaper than putting a new door in.
So one additional question. We've got a apartment owner that puts the box on, that come in and see City Hall, or who do they contact?
Contact
to
Ryan.
get the key into your hands?
Yeah, this was the part that I didn't like, but it's part of the job. So, yeah, so they'll reach out to me and then I will have to meet with each one individually and then lock the keys in the box.
Okay. Any further questions? There's no action tonight
Nope,
on this,
that
it's
was
all
just-
informational,
yeah.
right?
We really wanted to get the word out to the building owners, and Ron said it really well. We don't want to be breaking down doors. It's expensive for them, so.
Very good.
Thank you, Chief.
Should I go back or?
You might as well stay there.
Well, I guess we got a few items,
Okay.
but the next one I don't think requires any discussion. We just
Okay.
talked in committee about making sure that there was fire hall parking for volunteers when they showed up to take the equipment out to fight fires, because as the configuration of the parking lot changes, there could be overflow from events. We need to make sure that we have adequate parking for our firemen and women to get there. So anyway, so we talked about how to do that. The next one is purchase of a grass truck, and a lot of it's explained in the special handout that you have in front of you. We actually got bids, but if you'll allow me, Chief, I'll start and you can correct me. What happened is our 1980s trucks are due for replacement, And we were scheduled to purchase a used surplus DNR truck this year. But what happened with the drought conditions, the DNR decided to hold on to all their old trucks as well as purchase new ones, so there's no surplus trucks for us to buy, but we really need to replace those 1980s trucks. They're going on one lung, so to speak. So we are scheduled to purchase a new truck anyway in 2023. So by shifting some funds around, we can cash flow a new truck this year and then look at purchasing a used one in 2023. So what Chief did was go out and get bids for a truck, pickup truck, and they are in front of you here, and the unit that would make it useful for fighting grass fires. Low bid is Midway Ford. They have the state contract, so that would make sense. And the vendor for the skid part of it, the firefighting water part, is from Alex Air Apparatus. So anyway, I move that we accept the low bid of $29,279.68 from Midway Ford and $14,869 from Alex Air Apparatus to replace one of our grass fire rigs.
Second it.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded, and so I would open it up for discussion or questions from either Chairman Wenner or Chief Swanson.
I got something.
Go ahead, Dan.
So grass rigs, these are more township-based items. They're not really within the city limits, and we're kind of having a disagreement with the townships, and they're taking away our ability to grow, reasonably and rationally. And this is something that, really comes to a head. Kelsey pointed out that the tax rate in Detroit Township is 8.78%. So or is it 8.9%? Less than 9% is their tax rate. They like to publicize that, and they like to go all out on that. And here we are spending, $50-some thousand on a grass rig that is going to get used out in the townships, where we just bought a $400,000 ladder truck, which is good for the city. It's good for areas around here, but we're just going to go ahead and throw another $50,000 right out at the townships, basically, after we got poked in the eye. And we continue to get poked in the eye every time we turn around with the townships. And I can't support this without a little bit more buy-in from the townships, so I'm going to be voting no against this.
Okay, further comments?
Well, I've got a comment on it. Yes, it is the township, but the townships are a big part of our fire department, and they share the cost percentage-wise on a lot of these things. But it's our men that are here and women working with our fire department that have to make these calls, and I just think that they get every ounce of good we can out of these equipment that we have, and it's just time to replace it just for public safety. But it's also just to get the job done when we do have a fire out in the country. We have to go out and call on those calls, and I know we maybe have a disagreement with the townships, but I'm hoping maybe they'll turn around and maybe work with us a little bit better too. But by not working with them, it doesn't help anybody. So I hope we can go ahead and get this vehicle that's needed for the fire department and help them with their situation fighting grass fires.
And just
Further comments?
Just, Dan, I really emphasize with your position, but I live on the edge of town, so from a self-serving standpoint, I want to get this rig in place so it doesn't come over the city limit and get my house, so.
One question for city staff then. Do you happen to have what the townships pay for fire service each year?
Yep. I'll just pull up our 2021 billing. So percentage-wise, the city is right at about 60% of the overall cost of the fire department budget. The townships collectively is, the other 40%.
Dollar figure-wise, roughly?
Dollar figure-wise, the city contributes about $263,000. The townships about $176 or $177.
Okay, further questions or discussion?
And there's a formula of how that works out. So it's based off fire calls, tax value, and then I think something else, and then it's a 3-year average that figures out. So if there's not any fire calls in the city, then the city's percentage goes down. If there's a lot of fire calls in the city, then the city's percentage goes up. And it's only on like fires, car accidents, that type of things that are into that calculation, not alarm calls and, you know, what we always call the Good Samaritan type calls, you know, or CO calls, that type of stuff, so.
Further discussion or questions? We have a motion and a second on the table. I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Anything else, Chairman Winter?
That's all I have, Your Honor.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Anything on liquor, gambling, Matt?
Yes, we have one late addition.
Okay.
We're gonna call it 9A1.
Okay.
We approved Holy Rosary for a 3-2 temporary intoxicating permit last month. Due to COVID and supply, apparently the liquor market is not making 3-2 beer as often as they once did. So they cannot readily get it, so
That's good.
we're going full strength now. So we've revised this, and I would make a motion to revise this to a full-strength temporary intoxicating liquor for Holy Rosary.
All right. Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded to revise the permit for the Holy Rosary, what's it, for their parish festival?
Yes, sir.
To allow a
Full strength.
strong beer versus 3-2, is that
Yep.
what it's called? Okay.
At church?
Yeah, it's my church too. So, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
That's all, Your Honor.
Madeline, is there anything from the public utilities that we need to
Yes,
discuss?
we need to accept the bid for the south substation distribution work and award the contract to Arvig. I believe the bids are in your packet. Arvig came in substantially lower than the other two that had bid, and the Public Utilities Commission reviewed all that this morning, and we moved to accept that bid from Arvig.
There a second? Motion's been made and seconded to accept the bid for Arvig for the south substation distribution work. Discussion?
I just wanted to say that Vernell has been giving tours of all the substations in the Detroit Lakes area that they cover, and Dan Winter and I went together here last week, but if you haven't been on one of those tours, it just shows where all of our power lines and all the power is, and it's very interesting, so I'd encourage you to go ahead and go on that tour if you haven't done it yet.
Okay.
I agree. It's fascinating, massive amount of infrastructure, so, yep. Required to keep the power going on in town.
That's good. And it stays on mostly.
Oh, yeah.
That's good. Further discussion? We've got the motion to accept the bid in a second on the table. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. I have one library board recommendation. I'd like to recommend to the council that we appoint Mike Stearns to fill one of those positions.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to appoint Mike Stearns to the library board. Discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. I do have someone else who has said they will serve, and I've been trying to contact that individual, and he hasn't called me back, so I will have a recommendation. I also have a backup person that Matt Boki told me about, so I'll have a recommendation at the next council meeting. Any further items from the city administration or staff? Okay, in your package, you've got the budget schedule, and those are gonna start on Thursday, it looks like.
This will be our second meeting.
The second meeting? Okay. You haven't got her done yet, huh?
Working on it.
All right. So anyway, the schedule's there. The next joint governance meeting is October 5th, and the balance of the council meetings for 2021 are listed as well. So,
You know, Mayor,
go ahead,
there-
Ron.
we've got some meetings coming up this week now too, and we've got the airport ribbon cutting.
Well, tomorrow we've got the meeting here regarding
The pre-construction meeting
reconstruction meeting.
And that's at what
for
time?
Willow is at 5:30 tomorrow.
Okay,
And then on the 24th is the,
Is the informational meeting on Westlake Drive from SAW 6 down to the Pelican River.
and this Friday at 11:30
at the airport.
at the airport, we're gonna have a ribbon cutting for the new expanded runway and taxiway project, which is virtually complete now, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Anything else? Aaron, you had an item you wanted to reconsider tonight.
Mayor Brink and fellow council members, a couple months ago, we voted on trying to let McDonald's have 2 drive-throughs. I've been driving around there a lot lately. It's getting worse as far as I'm concerned. You look at Park Rapids and Wadena. Wadena is right off of Highway 10 McDonald's. They got 2 drive-throughs. Park Rapids is right off of 34, a busy highway. They have 2 drive-throughs. I don't see, right now in the food service industry, it's hard to find employees. I think this is the new where people want to be in and out fast and quick. If we can speed up the wait times over there and limit the amount of cars that are sitting out on the street, I think if we should re-vote on it to see if anybody has a change of heart on it.
Okay, is there, you want to make a motion to that effect? What was tell me what the action was the last time, Kelsey.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, if you remember, it was a variance request, so, the process went through a notification requirement, publication requirement, and then Planning Commission had heard, had a public hearing, took testimony, and then made a recommendation to the City Council. So I think the issue we have here, reconsidering the vote is, we don't have an active zoning application. We haven't gone through, we haven't reheard it through the Planning Commission or notified, any of the adjacent property owners or publications. So I think that's the issue. It seems like to me if you're going to reconsider that, we'd have to take a step back and go back through that process. We'd have to take it back to Planning Commission, doing their notification, so.
We would need a new application.
Right.
So we can't change our mind on the other one, huh?
No, but if they were to apply again, change your mind, but.
Right.
The issue is not the double drive-through. The issue is that if they do this drive-through the way they're proposing it, that they would not meet their parking requirements. So they need a variance from their parking requirement in order to do the double drive-through. In this case, though, it's not legitimately a double drive-through. It's a single drive-through that splits, and there's about 3 cars that split into 2 lanes, and then it goes back into one. So it doesn't really create a whole lot of space for shortening up the line, if you look at the plans closely.
So
I think the best thing that would happen for McDonald's to reduce their line would be that they open up and start allowing people to eat in the restaurant again, and that would probably alleviate the problem.
But that's not the case. The case right now is people want to be in and out, okay? And as far as parking, you have a former liquor store that was right here that has plenty of parking that's out here right now. We always talk about public safety issues. This is a public safety issue right now.
Right, and I'm just saying the solution isn't necessarily to create this double drive-through. They have 2 drive-through speakers right now that they aren't utilizing efficiently, and I don't know that creating this double drive-through and reducing the amount of parking is the answer. So
The parking's not an issue though, Larry, right now, okay? There's not people parked there right now. It's people that are lined up all the way back out on the road, so it's not a parking issue.
I understand what you're saying.
So why don't we see if McDonald's wants to go through the process again, and it sounds like we can't take any action tonight, so we're gonna have to go through the process if they so desire.
Yeah, I think the ordinance has some language about limiting reapplications within a short period of time, but they would be able to modify, and I think that's what Larry is suggesting, they could potentially modify their proposal and make a new application. And that could be considered.
One thing I didn't realize last discussion was the fact that they weren't open inside, so I'm glad you brought that point up. So we'll have to see what they want to do. Go ahead, Matt.
Question. Do we know how that, refresh my memory, how did that vote come out with McDonald's last time?
It seems to me the Planning Commission was a split vote, wasn't it?
I believe the CDC was as well.
It was split here too, I think.
What was the planning commission at?
4-4.
4-4, okay.
And I believe the CDC was no recommendation from there as well. And what was the vote here though?
The vote here was 5-4.
5-4, okay. I was just looking for history, thank you.
I have,
One of the things I had wanted to know the last time we voted on it was, what is the long-term plan? Does McDonald's plan on reopening? Are they going to mitigate that traffic issue by having the ability to eat inside? And we didn't hear any of that from this table.
Yeah, the manager said they have opened up for inside eating. People can eat inside now from 9 to 7.
Okay.
Oh.
But one thing I want to clarify, this whole parking thing, there's parking spots that are out here right now that aren't being used. So where's this whole parking thing? What am I missing here on this whole parking thing?
Well, there's a requirement for parking, even if that isn't being utilized at this particular time. A restaurant has a certain required number of parking spaces that they're supposed to provide.
And Aaron, we can't count the parking lot by our building as part of their requirement for what they need to have on site, so.
I believe they already have, when they constructed it, wasn't there one segment of parking variance?
Part of that is on city property.
Right, and this was a request for an additional variance, I think.
Correct. I don't have the numbers with me tonight.
I mean, again, I understand Councilman Dahlman's view of this, and that's fine. We would need to have the applicant make another application. We've already considered this application, it's been denied, there's been a vote. We don't get to reconsider an application that's over and done with. If they make another application, and if it's somewhat different than the old application, I forget the time period.
It's 1 year.
It's 1 year, okay. You know, then we would be able to consider it, but it would have to be different than the old application if it hasn't been a year since they made the last application. Is that correct, Claire?
That's correct.
Okay, any further comments before we
well,
wrap it up?
I just wanted to comment that I in no way in my wanting to know more information and minimizing the safety issue. I mean, it's clear and real and it's a problem, but my concern is this I don't have a concern. I want to know, what is the long-term expectation of this? Are we going to go back to eating indoors if it resolves itself over time? Or are things changing permanently where they're always going to have drive-through and no more eating in? That's a different animal in my opinion. So I just wanted to go on the record as saying I'm not minimizing the safety issue.
If they were open, I had no idea they were open.
I was down in St. Cloud, I was telling Kelsey that down there they have signs right before the driveways, do not block the highways. And then also I saw an article in Minneapolis 2 months ago that they're not allowing these drive-throughs like they've had because they're a traffic accident causing accidents. And so then they're not gonna allow them for a lot of their drive-in fast food restaurants anymore because they're kind of doing it on purpose because it's a lot more profitable having a drive-through than is having it in service business. And that's, I don't know if that's what their direction is, but it is a concern about that happening.
Any further discussion? Well, we'll see what they want to do, Aaron.
Okay. Thank you.
Wendy, anything more?
No, thank you.
Dan?
Yeah, we've got budget meetings. I think they should be exciting. Other people out in the rest of the world can come in their open meetings, come and see what the taxpayers are spending their money on, or what we're spending your money on. I think it's just a good opportunity to learn what, instead of learning what happened around the coffee table at the restaurant, to see what we're actually spending our dollars on and what services we provide for a very reasonable cost.
Okay, thank you. Ron?
Well, I was going to say too that, you know, we've had our first one that's going to go through the first part of, first week of September if it need be, but it's very informative. And if you're on the council, you certainly should be there because you've got a voice in how the budget money is going to be spent for next year.
Okay, Madeline?
Nothing to
Matt?
Big thank you to city staff and all the volunteers around the 150th. That was a great ribbon cutting down there at the park. I know a lot of time and hours went into that from everybody from Public Works to Park Department to admin to volunteers from the community center, but thank you for making that a great event.
Yeah, thank you.
Natalie?
As summer wraps up and We Fest is behind us, we still have the street fair this weekend and the firemen's fundraiser on Friday night.
Where's that at, chief?
I'll be on both.
Okay.
Chief, are you selling tickets for something? The firemen?
Yeah, but unless this is like Facebook, half my guys have been now banned from Facebook or in Facebook jail because of them, so.
Really?
Yeah, so we're doing another gun raffle.
Oh, jeez.
You can't.
Also on Facebook, you get shut down now. But anyway, if anybody's interested, I have some tickets with me, or reach out to a local fireman. Appreciate the support.
Okay, Jamie, anything? Dan? The business of this council has come to a conclusion and the meeting's adjourned.